Well, starting with the computer, first of all, like many people, I had no idea that computers were ever going to be so popular and so ubiquitous. They're everywhere. They're totally an integral part of our lives today in every aspect, and future projections indicate this will be even more true as the years go by. So I remember 1993, I got my very first computer. It was an IBM desktop, and it was very exciting. And it used a modem which goes through the telephone lines. And like most computers in those days, remember this is before high-speed internet and broadband and wireless and everything else. Everyone had to go through the telephone lines. So I remember there were three services: America Online, CompuServe, and Prodigy. And with my computer purchase, I got a sample disk of each of the three services, and eventually I chose America Online. Well, when I started to do emailing, I noted that I had nobody to email. Nobody I knew had any email. So I called up my friend Rick, and he and I agreed that we would call each other on the telephone, and with the telephone in one hand, we would go on each of our computers, and I would send him a message, and he would send a message back if he received it. So I remember the first message I ever sent was the quote from Samuel F.B. Morse, and when he invented the telegraph, and that phrase was, "What hath God wrought?" And so I remember typing this in. It was around 6 o'clock in the evening here in California, and he was back in the Chicago area. And so I pressed the send button, and sure enough, on the telephone he told me, "Hey, the message just appeared on my screen." And then he tried a message back to me, and that's how emailing got started. And it was just amazing, the instantaneousness of the technology at the time, even though today modems are gradually being phased out because they're so slow, having to go through the regular phone line instead of through the high-speed connection or through the wireless. But I went on to get a second desktop about 6 years later, and then about 5 years ago I got my first laptop, and I bought my daughter her first laptop. So the second one was a Dell, and then the second desktop was also an IBM because I like them. And then for the laptop I went to a Dell, and I've been very happy with that as well. At my school I wrote a computer grant for $15,000, and I got us a computer station. I believe it was with 5 computers, each with a cart and all sorts of software and printers and everything. And originally it was used for my 5th grade classroom, but it became so popular I expanded it and loaned it out to the 4th grade teachers and also to the 6th grade teachers. And they really enjoyed using it, and all the students used it. I was also responsible for doing the first website of our school and putting that together. And so for a while I was kind of the computer person at my school. And it's interesting to note today that I teach 5 different computer classes at 2 different library branches where I work part-time as a librarian. So I've been enjoying those quite a bit. So I had heard that a typical laptop computer today has more power and capability than did the entire Apollo moon capsule technology back in 1969. So that's kind of amazing how things have progressed, and with things like smartphones and iPads, and what I'm holding in my hand right now, the iPod Touch. that all of these things are just coming, and the rate of technology and changes is so rapid. It's a very exciting time, and sometimes kind of an overwhelming time. But now every company has an email address, and everybody has I should say every company has a web address as well as email addresses, and all people just about have an email address. It's as important to you as a passport or a driver's license or a social security number. So at one time that was not true. None of that stuff existed at all. The second thing I'd like to talk about briefly was the VCR. And I got mine in 1984 at a Sears store in Sycamore, Illinois. I remember paying $800 for it. It was this big, heavy, bulky unit, and you bought a blank cassette tape and put it in there, and you could actually tape the television programs any time that you wanted. No longer did you have to stay up until midnight to see a late night movie. You could tape it and watch it at your leisure the next day. Also, it had the amazing feature of being able to fast forward through those annoying TV commercials. So this was a great, great invention, and I just really liked it. Of course, today they're gradually being phased out by the DVD players and things of that nature, including the Blu-ray discs. But believe it or not, in my opinion, the original video cassettes that the VCR player uses are more durable because the magnetic tape that they record on are protected in a little plastic cover, and your fingers never touch the tape. Whereas on a DVD disc, they're very cheap to make, but they scratch easily, and if you use ones from a public library, after several months of multiple users, they freeze up and they skip, and it's just not a really good technology. So presumably something better will come in the future. The last thing I want to talk about is the microwave oven. We got ours when we moved here and bought our house in 1989, and we had a spot in the kitchen where the previous owners had their microwave. And I'd been putting off getting a microwave for quite a while because erroneously I thought that there was a danger of radiation, and that if you ate the food you could get sick because of radioactivity. I know it sounds silly and stupid at the time admitting this, but I didn't know that what the microwave does is it agitates the atoms and the molecules of the food and liquid items, and that friction causes them to heat up from the inside, and that there's no radiation in the food or liquids at all. But I remember buying the microwave and reading the directions very carefully for safety, and then I put in a mug of water and hit the button to start the machine, and I could see the water boiling. And then when I opened up the door, the inside of the microwave was completely cool, unlike a regular heat oven. Yet the liquid was hot, and it was kind of like a miracle. And then I remember there was almost no microwave foods back at that time, other than like microwave popcorn. And so I remember buying my first microwave popcorn and putting it in there and then watching it pop. And it was, again, amazing that something like this would work and that people could have these in their homes. Of course, nowadays in our country, everybody just about has a microwave oven. I bought an additional one for my classroom so I could heat up food and stuff for lunch in my room when I was teaching. And nowadays, if you go to a supermarket, you'll see a gazillion microwave food items that you can all cook and heat in the microwave. So it's an amazing world. And I hope that you've enjoyed our 12-part series. And I thank you if you've watched all 12 parts. And hopefully you've learned something, you've had some fun, because I've had a lot of fun making